how do we go back from there? From that basic reality, we have to find the conditions under which we live, which allow us to talk about this long line-oriented and common, which is time. And this is a number of steps. And there are many steps, different levels, different layers. Each one is interesting by itself, but they're separated. Time doesn't come up off in one step. It comes up at various levels. First of all, the granularity of time is so small, we don't have such precision, so we don't see it. This flow, we can see it continues. Fine. The quantum mechanical, the superposition aspect of time, we are big and heavy and we work at scale much larger than the Planck constant, which is what determines quantum mechanical effect, so we don't see it. So we actually see a gravitational field as a continuous thing, like Einstein described. But we live in a region in which gravity is very, very weak compared to a black hole where there is really strong. And where it's very, very weak, essentially this Einstein curved space-time is flat. And this is flat Einstein space-time resemble very much Newtonian space and Newtonian time. Not exactly, because Minkowski space, time, but very much. But we don't move fast with respect to one another, so we can disregard the time back and forth of the light, and we are so we can assume that light, instead of going at finite speed, goes at infinite speed, because in our experience, life is essentially infinite velocity. Right? We don't resolve the light travel, the time travel of light. So if time is at infinite speed, then we have the surfaces of simultaneity. We can think that we're in our bubble. And so we can talk about one single time, right? So now we have a one-dimensional line, which is still not oriented past and future. So what is it oriented at past and future? Well, let's go slowly. First of all, remember, it's entropy. Entropy depends on the way we look at the world, or the way we interact with respect to the world. So I think, and take this as an hypothesis, not as something demonstrated, some of my colleagues disagree, that what makes entropy low down there in the past, say in the early universe, entropy was very, very low, is not the fact that the universe was arranged in a very ordered way. The universe was arranged whatever it was arranged. Is the fact that we look at the universe, we interact with the rest in a way which is very particular because we are particular. We meaning we as a physical system interacting with the rest, such that under this perspective, the past was special. Imagine you take a card, you mix them, you look at them and you remember the order, okay? That order disappears when you mix again. So you see an increasing of disorder, but that order was special because you decided it was special. You looked at them and learned it. So in some sense, we are a special subset of the universe that interact with the rest of the universe in such a way that the past looks ordered to us. What is special is not the universe, is a subset of the universe to which we belong. This is called the idea of the perspectival origin of entropy, and I think it could be an ingredient for understanding why the past is different from the future. There's nothing special in the early universe. It's special the macroscopic, the coarse graining that we do. Are we done? Not yet. Not yet. And there is a last step. And to me, this has been the greatest surprise. And here I'm stepping a little bit out of my own comfortable zone, but it's what I've been learning and learning and learning. There is something about time which is still missing. And there are some philosophers, even some physicists, who says, we have got the entire story wrong because time flows, time passes. Time sort of passes at a certain speed. And we don't see that in all this physical picture. So maybe there is some fundamental law of time that says, after all, there is this passing of time. I think they're right, they're wrong. And I'm, and many other colleagues of mine, including many philosophers, are increasingly getting convinced that what we refer to when we refer to this flowing of time, this passing of time, this clear feeling that we have about the flowing of time is not in the quantum gravity, is not in general relativity, is not in quantum mechanics, is not in thermodynamics, is in the specific way our brain works. And there is an enormous amount of working today in the neurosciences, in the functioning of our brain. There's a title of a book by a neuroscientist called Dean Bonomano, a recent book in America. The title is Your Brain is a Time Machine. What does it mean? The way the brain works is to exploit this entropy gradient and the fact there are traces of the past to build memories and in terms of this compute the future and anticipate the future. That's the basic working of the brain according to one of the hypotheses of how the brain works. So the brain is a time machine. The brain does continuously sort of grasping to some events in this confused set of events around us. We are connected by traces to some event toward the past. We are connected by anticipation on the other direction. So in our mind, there is this opening space. Okay? If you think of it, this is a metaphor of what? This is a metaphor of our memories of some of the past, and in fact that's why it's much more confused over the future, because we don't have memories of the future. When we think about time, very often we're not thinking about the physical past and the physical future, but we are considering the memories we have about physical past and the anticipation we have about the future. Philosophers have been saying that for a very long time. Husserl has been saying that. It goes back to St. Augustine, famous pages about the nature of time in his book, The Confessions. I don't know how it's translated in English, Confessioni. He says, when I listen to music, I get a meaning from a musical phrase. But I never listen to the phrase. I listen to one note at a time, right? If I listen to one note, how do I know about the previous notes? How can I get the meaning? Well, of course I know, because I remember them. But if I remember them, and Husserl is very clear in that, the meaning comes from the notes being playing now and the memories of the previous one. So it's all in the present, so to say, and it can be all in the present together because there is memory. But it's more than that, because since the brain is designed by evolution to use memory to anticipate for a purpose, because it's designed to try to get somewhere. That's how Darwinian evolution designed our behavior. Then all this is strongly emotionally charged. The passage of time is not for us a rational thing to contemplate. It's something we live into. We are this passage of time. We are this constant computing of time. You can think about reality without space. We can think about reality without things. You can think, it's very hard to think yourself in a reality without time. You wouldn't know how to start thinking. But the confusion is this because reality by itself cannot be thought without time? No, it's because our thinking cannot be thought about time. We cannot think about time. We are a time machine, not the universe. The universe is not a time machine. The universe is just a bunch of things, of events vaguely connected to one another, which in some approximation are nicely ordered. But what we think when we think about time is the ensemble of the memory and the anticipation that give us this sense that we are in this space, right? All of us. What is the real time? Real time is now, 10 minutes ago, my life, but then I've been to school, so I know about all the kings of England, so this long line, right? The line of the kings of England and queens. And so I have some extended memory, which is a cultural memory. I've studied physics and cosmology, so I have this memory longer. It's all today. It's all my knowledge today. It's all here. In the book, I talk about Proust. Proust has written this fantastic novel, In Search of Lost Time. It's all about time. He says that explicitly. It's a reflection of the meaning of time. And the novel is full of stories, character, things, but the novel is presented not as what is happening in the world or what has happened in the world, but as the memory of the main character, whose name is probably Marcel. It's not clear the name of the main character. So all the 3,000 pages of Proust's novel are about what's in this, 5 inches between the ears of Marcel. It's all here. And that's the greatest intuition of Proust. To understand what is time for us, we have to look at the specific of our brain functioning more than the temporal structure of the universe itself. Of course, there's a relation between the two. I'm not saying that the temporal structure of the universe itself is irrelevant, but I'm saying that by looking only at the temporal structure of the universe, you always get the feeling that there's something missing with respect to the time of our experience. And so you do metaphysical speculation about the primarity of time, which are completely wrong, because of course there's something missing, because it doesn't pertain to the fundamental structure of the universe. It pertains to the way our brain machine works. And last point, it's strongly emotionally colored. Time is not emotionally neutral to us, precisely because our brain is a machine designed to tell the story about the past and do something in the future. We are full of motivation, right? We have hunger, we have thirst, we have ambition, we have curiosity, we have love, we have hate. That's what we are before being rational beings. And this drive is the drive of the brain that control our homeostasis and struggle to make us survive and do better, because evolution wants us to be like that. It's all oriented in time. It's all in time. So time is emotionally charged for us. Time is what brings us things we want, is the opening of the future, okay? And time is what is emotionally charged for us because it makes us lose things constantly all the time. In Buddhism, there's this deep psychological insight, I think. The main truth of Buddhism is that first is life is sufferance, but the second is that life is sufferance because we have difficulty of dealing with impermanence, with time. So time is a source of our suffering. We suffer because we lose things, or because we have lost things, or because we think we will lose things. So we're going to die. So this is the quintessential source of anxiety for humans. So time is strongly colored emotionally. And why I'm saying this? Because I think if we think that this emotional side of time is a sort of fog that does not allow us to see the real nature of time, we are confusing ourselves, because this emotional aspect of time is precisely what is deeply time for us. Time for us is this emotional connection to the event of the world that go away, that pass, that flow, that we lose. And this is the root of our strong sense of passing time and feeling time. It's ingrained in the working of our brain. This is vaguely connected to this event. It works because there's entropy, of course, because at our scale we can orient things like this. But you see, understanding time means bringing out the pieces of this layered, complex object. Time is not a single thing. It's all time for us. It's not a single thing. It's all these layers that come from approximation, from disregarding aspect of nature, from thermodynamics, from our particular relation to the world, and from our functioning of our brain, including this emotional level. Out there, the more we go general in the picture of the universe, the more time loses pieces, and there's a very weak form of temporality. And in closest to us, I think the strong emotional connection with time, the emotion of time, is what time is for us. Thank you.